In a dense forest, Dresa wakes up to the sound of a plane landing. She quickly arms herself, and as soon as a man steps out, she shoots him in the head. Meanwhile, former Marine Levi wakes from a nightmare and heads to the beach to clear his mind. The next morning, he receives a text summoning him to a Marine Corps base. At the base, Levi meets Agent Bartholomew, who acknowledges his impressive record as an elite sniper with no family or friends. She offers him a classified job in Lithuania. Dresa visits a cemetery for the anniversary of her mother's death, meeting her father there. Recently diagnosed with terminal cancer, he announces that if he's still alive by Valentine's Day, he will end his life to reunite with his wife. Months later, Levi wakes up groggy from anesthesia on a plane. He asks a soldier where they are, but she isn't authorized to say, and she confiscates his belongings and instructs him to jump out as they've reached a no-fly zone. Grabbing his assigned bag, Levi parachutes down, trekking through rugged terrain for days before reaching the edge of a massive gorge. There, he meets JD, a soldier who has been stationed there for a year and doesn't even know where they are. JD takes Levi to the West Tower, a self-sustaining outpost equipped with solar energy, a backup generator, a rainwater system, and a vegetable garden. Across the gorge is the East Tower, where another soldier is stationed, though communication between towers is strictly forbidden. JD explains the mission. Every day, Levi must patrol the Western Rim, restocking ammunition for automatic turrets, inspecting the containment fence, and maintaining cloakers, devices that send false signals to keep the gorge invisible. There's no outside communication except for a monthly radio check-in. In an emergency, Levi can press the stray dog protocol, but JD warns him that nobody knows what it actually does. This operation dates back to the Cold War, when multiple nations agreed to keep the gorge a secret, even from their own governments. Levi's role is simple: prevent whatever is inside from getting out. JD admits he once thought it was a joke, until he heard the horrifying screeches from below. JD says that in the late 1940s, 3 horseback battalions were sent into the gorge to clear it out, but none returned. Instead of fighting, the military decided on containment. Having finished his duties, JD hikes to a pickup point where a helicopter retrieves him. But as soon as he gives the clearance code, a soldier executes him, disposing of his body in the mountains. A month later, Levi has settled into his repetitive routine, walking the perimeter, maintaining security systems, and checking in over the radio, where the operator simply asks if everything is fine before hanging up. One day, Levi notices movement in the East Tower. Using binoculars, he spots Dresa chopping wood. She sees him too, but ignores him. One night, during a storm, Levi wakes abruptly and, thinking he's under attack, grabs his gun. He soon realizes he only stepped on broken glass. As he cleans his wound, he notices Dresa watching him from her tower. However, she goes to bed when she notices him watching her back. A month later, Dresa celebrates her birthday alone. Bored, she fires a shot into the air to get Levi's attention and holds up a sign asking for his name. Though Levi reminds her they aren't supposed to communicate, she insists she'll do whatever she wants on her birthday. Amused, he writes back his name. Dresa plays loud music, dancing while Levi watches. She encourages him to dance too, but he claims to be a terrible dancer, though an excellent sniper. Smirking, Dresa shoots his water bottle. Levi responds in kind. She then places a bottle on her head for the next shot, but suddenly freezes. Something is moving in the gorge. Levi grabs his rifle and spots distorted humanoid creatures made of tree-like flesh climbing the gorge walls. He opens fire, causing one to fall onto a mine, triggering an explosion. Dresa immediately joins in with her machine gun. The creatures screech as they attempt to climb both towers, but Levi and Dresa work together, gunning them down before any can reach them. When they think it's over, a creature reaches Dresa's balcony. So she shoots it with her gun a few times before kicking it off. Then the monsters begin climbing the wall on her side, and both soldiers have to work together again to stop them. Another creature falls on a mine, and a new explosion happens, causing a piece of metal to fly and hurt Dresa in the shoulder. Then the creatures start climbing both walls at the same time. So Levi and Dresa use the machine guns to kill them and activate more mines as backup, this time effectively killing the monsters until no more show up. The next morning, as Dresa tends to a shoulder wound from the battle, she tells Levi it was the best birthday ever. As Levi replaces the damaged mines, he sees something shocking, a drone flying out of the gorge. Over time, their bond strengthens. Levi sets up a Christmas tree made of lights in the forest for Dresa. They exchange gifts, play chess, and build snowmen with each other's names. On Valentine's Day, Levi notices Dresa in tears while looking at a family photo. She admits she's having a rough day and wishes he could be there with her. Determined to close the distance, Levi builds a makeshift zip line using gear from the armory. He shoots a rocket across the gorge, which gets stuck on a tree. It also starts a fire, but Dresa runs to put it off and notices there's a rope attached to the rocket. She ties the rope firmly to the tree before running back to the tower, where she sees Levi asking her to dinner. Levi slides across the gorge, getting stuck midway. Using his strength, he pulls himself the rest of the way. Once inside Dresa's tower, he presents her with flowers. She teases him about his awful stench from climbing, so he agrees to take a shower while he's washing. Dresa takes his uniform and leaves some nice clothes from a previous occupant. They share stories about their past as mercenaries and what this job has done to their minds. Eventually, a dance leads to something more, and they spend the night together. But the next morning, as Levi prepares to zip back to his tower at that moment, disaster strikes. The hollow men appear on his wall and hit a mine, causing a huge explosion that cuts the rope. Levi begins falling into the gorge and immediately opens his parachute. Dresa immediately rushes to her armory to grab a bunch of weapons and a parachute. She jumps in after him. After a few miles of falling, she lands right into a river. On the surface, her parachute gets stuck on a rock, so Dresa has to cut it off. The current immediately begins pushing her, and her body hits a rock, causing her to accidentally drop the auto ascender. The river is still pushing Dresa, so she grabs onto some tree roots to reach land. Meanwhile, Levi is suspended in a tree. As he wakes, he realizes a branch is moving. It's a monster. He begins shooting at it while untangling the ropes from the tree. He falls to the ground and lands on what appears to be mud, but the adhesive substance begins moving because it's actually the mouth of another monster. The substance traps Levi as the mouth slowly starts to close. Thankfully, Dresa heard the gunshots and arrives just in time to open fire at the creature and rescues him. After Dresa gets the substance off Levi's body with a knife, the duo starts moving through the forest, but soon hears inhuman screeches. Suddenly, two hollow men on grotesque, tree-like horses appear, attacking with swords and whips. Dresa stabs one in the neck when one of them jumps off the horse to jump on her before shooting in the face. The other disarms Levi, but he quickly retrieves his sidearm and guns both the horse and the rider, killing them in seconds. Afterward, Dresa checks her bag and discovers the auto ascender fell into the river. Since the walls are too high for them to climb, they're stuck there. She thinks they should follow the river because it has to drain out somewhere. Levi takes a closer look at the creature he killed and notices something disturbing. Their uniforms are from the battalions that entered the gorge decades ago. The Hollow Men are the lost horseback battalions from a story. The duo keeps moving through the forest, finding hundreds of skeletons on the way. Eventually, they find an abandoned town where all the buildings are covered by mutated plants. There's also damage on the ground from an earthquake, They can hear screeching indicating more monsters are coming, so the duo decides to hide inside a church, where they find skeletons on the seats. Levi can smell cyanide, which means these people took cyanide to escape their fate, because they couldn't stand living in this place anymore. Suddenly, they hear a noise, and Dresa looks up to find a huge spider that jumps to attack her. She immediately pushes it off and falls to the ground, where she sees another spider coming. As she stabs it, 2 more spiders attack Levi, who quickly shoots them. Soon lots of spiders surround them, and both soldiers keep on firing to kill as many as possible. Dresa runs out of bullets, so Levi rescues her while she reloads. They start heading toward the door, but at that moment some hollow men burst in. Now the duo has to divide their attention between shooting the spiders and the hollow man. Dresa begins pounding a creature's head on a table and throws it off, so the spiders start climbing on it too. Levi also has to fight a few creatures up close, and after some struggle, he manages to shoot them down. Then Dresa shoots a grenade at the church wall to make a huge hole that allows them to escape. Levi and Dresa run through the forest, but they can still hear creatures screeching in the distance. Since they're too exposed here, they decide to go closer to the wall. They find an old door and get inside to discover a facility that was overtaken by the plants too. Deeper inside, they learn this used to be a military lab. There are skeletons and a generator that Dresa turns on. Levi finds a tape, so they play on the projector. In the film, a scientist explains that it's 1946 and that this community was formed as part of a top-secret coalition of nations during the last years of World War II. They worked on creating biochemical missiles. However, 6 days before the recording of this film, an earthquake hit the area and caused a chemical leak. The scientists started to work around the clock to contain the toxin, which soon merged with the DNA of the local flora and fauna and mutated them. Being exposed to the toxin for only a few hours doesn't do anything, but the more they worked, the more exposed the scientists were, and it was slowly affecting them too, as proven by the woman on the screen showing the branches on her stomach. Thankfully, since the base was in the gorge, the toxin never reached the rest of humanity. In another room, Levi and Dresa find a computer from the 2000s, revealing that Dark Lake, a private military corporation, has been studying the toxin to create super soldiers. The towers and the hired guards help them keep the secret in the computer. The drone they saw was collecting samples. Worse, the Stray Dog Protocol is actually a nuclear bomb, designed to erase everything if a breach occurs. Levi tells Dresa that coming to this mission was worth it, because he got to meet her. They open the door and throw a smoke grenade before coming out. Suddenly, the hollow man's whip grabs her ankle and drags her away. As the rider takes her through the forest, Dresa tries cutting the whip with her knife, but she accidentally crashes against a tree and drops it. She also tries shooting, but she can't aim correctly when she keeps getting hit by rocks and logs. Levi follows the rider's tracks and eventually ends up finding the facility with the nuclear bomb. Inside, the hollow man has hung Dresa and turns the branch stuck in her stomach to torture her before taking it out. Dresa kicks him in the chest and untangles the ropes from the beam to free herself. Then she pushes the hollow man and grabs a piece of metal as a weapon. The hollow man keeps on overpowering her, and the snake in his chest tries to attack her too, but Dresa never gives up and manages to decapitate the snake before throwing the metal at the hollow man. It doesn't cause much damage, but it angers the hollow man, who begins chasing her around the room. As he attacks her with his sword, Dresa uses bones as a shield and makes a torch from the bonfire, which allows her to burn her enemy as the hollow man yells in pain. Levi finally arrives and shoots him to death. After they reunite with a hug, Levi checks the hollow man and notices the name on the uniform, recognizing it as the first guard that worked in his tower. After getting the creature's sword, the duo starts making their way out and finds the place where the initial leak happened. There are mutated creatures everywhere created by the toxin. Levi and Dresa begin crossing the bridge while being creeped out by the faces breathing in the gorge. Dresa accidentally steps on a route, and when she pulls at the sticky substance, the bodies begin falling to try to capture her, and Levi uses the sword to quickly cut all the roots and rescue her soon. Bigger creatures are waking up and roaring at them as Levi continues to open the way with a sort of whip, grabs his ankle and makes him fall. Dresa shoots a grenade behind them and causes a big explosion, The creatures catch on fire, and the flames spread through the entire structure while the duo reaches the stairs to finally get out. Afterward, they search the town and find military jeeps in a garage. They do some maintenance on an engine and take off in one of the jeeps, driving for hours until they find a broken rope. Levi immediately ties the rope to the jeep while Draca shoots at the hollow men who try to approach them. When she runs out of bullets, they just trade places. Once the jeep is ready, they begin ascending the wall. It goes well for a while, but eventually they discover the hollow men are climbing to follow them. They kick one off, and Levi begins using the sword to kill the others. Draca finds an axe in the toolbox and uses it to kill creatures too, while Levi pushes a monster against the wheels. Draca has to hit one that lands on the front window to make it fall. Then a hollow man jumps to push Levi, who manages to grab onto the jeep at the last second, but is left hanging. He stabs the jeep's gas tank before climbing back. Then he lights a flare and throws it at the creature. When it combines with the dripping propane, it causes a huge explosion that burns all their enemies, but also makes the jeep explode. Levi breaks his leg when he hits the wall, and Draca has to help him up since they're closer to the top now. They decide to cut the rope and let the jeep fall on top of the remaining hollow men. Afterward, the duo climbs the rest of the way and returns to Draca's tower. While taking care of their injuries, they agree to stay apart for 5 days as quarantine. In case they're infected, they also want to run away together. So they make a plan to destroy the gorge. They share a kiss, and Levi tells Draca that he loves her before using a grappling gun that allows him to jump back to his own tower. The next day, they have to do the radio check-in. Instead of the usual employee, Levi's call is picked up by Bartholomew because she's learned that the computer in the lab was turned on. Since Levi denies going into the gorge, Bartholomew concludes that the person in the other tower did, so Levi's new mission is to kill them. Levi pretends to accept the mission before the call ends. Then it's revealed that the lab computer had a camera, and Bartholomew knows both soldiers were down there. So she calls a commander to order him to get a team ready to visit the gorge the next morning. While the soldiers are getting some minds ready for their plan, Draca writes, "I love you" back for Levi. At that moment, they see a helicopter coming, so they immediately start running through the forest when the soldiers find the towers empty. They send out drones, and a chase begins. The drones quickly open fire, so Levi and Draca shoot back, bringing them all down one by one while getting a few injuries in the process. Once they reach a spot high enough, they get into their sniper positions and shoot the cloakers. Thanks to the mines they installed earlier, they create a chain reaction that starts destroying all the cloakers in the area. Since the gorge is now exposed, the stray dog protocol activates. Bartholomew and her team rush to the helicopter to fly away while Levi and Draca run as fast as they can. The nuclear bomb goes off, and the enormous explosion brings down the helicopter, making it crash and killing everyone inside. Unfortunately, Levi is pushed by the explosion, and he falls off the edge of a cliff into a river. A month later, believing Levi is dead, Draca starts a new life in France. Until one day, she finds Levi waiting for her. He explains it took him a while to recover from his injuries. As they reunite with a kiss, their nightmare is finally over. Make sure to subscribe for more movie recaps. Thanks for watching.